For the YouTube homies, we are recording this live on the stream right now, and we're going to be doing my opinions on the rankings for the killers. We're going to be ranking them by add-ons, their chase power, mobility, map dependency, and how they perform against strong teams, people communicating and stuff. Because I really don't think there's a point to make a solo queue tier list for killers. You can make any killer work against the average solo team, so we're going to jump right into it. So first off, we're going to start with Nurse at the top. The killer is just legally cheating. You ignore everything in the game. I don't really want to go over Nurse or this. You know, I'm not going to dive too deep into it here because you guys know by now how broken this killer is. And, you know, I don't want this tier list video to take fucking 12 hours to record. So she's broken. I don't know why she's still the way that she is. It's really hard to balance the game and perks and stuff like that with her still existing. Number 2 is going to be Blight because he has some of the most stupid add-ons in the entire game with Compound 33. Here it is, a Blight tag, Adrenaline Vial, Alchemist Ring. Some of the dumbest freebie add-ons in the game. And the problem with those for me personally is something like Compound 33. You could have like 2 hours on Blight and just roll teams because you just ignore pallets and slow everybody nearby. There's no real skill expression there. It's just broken. And he can obviously deal with most maps pretty well. There's a couple, you know, Larry's, maybe, you know, RPD here and there where using your power isn't the best, but he's still a 115 killer. He's not slower like Nurse or Spirit, who we'll talk about in a second. He can still just play those tiles like he's a 115. He has no downsides at all, even on those insanely overpowered add-ons that I just talked about. No downsides. Really great mobility, great chase power, and Blight's amazing. He's always going to be near the top unless they do something significant to him. Number 3, we got our girl, the Artist, who is amazing. That new best build I posted a video on with Deadlock, DMS, Pain Res, Barbecue, fantastic. Her base kit just speaks for itself, which is what I like about her a lot more than some of these other killers we're going to talk about, like Blight, where their add-ons just make them so overpowered and hard to deal with that it kind of makes the killer themselves seem completely broken. Artist, everything about her is just her. You know, Festering Carry On, one of her best add-ons, gives you your birds back half a second faster. I mean, that's compare that to Blight, where you hit somebody with a rush, you get all 5 charges back immediately. It's insane, right? Fantastic. She does also ignore everything on the map, similar to Nurse. She can hit people across the map that way, multiple people at the same time with severed hands, deny loops, really good at proxying. The slingshots are really useful sometimes. Pressuring gens with DMS, really, really easy to control. She can camp that way too, which I think is kind of boring, but it is very strong. There's so much going for Artists that people don't put respect on that it still kind of blows my mind because she's been out for a while and I still just don't see really anybody talking about her and stuff. The Artist is an amazing killer. Definitely got to be near the top. You might not agree with exactly where I'm putting her, but the map dependency is very low. And everything I just said makes her so insane as a killer. Number 4 is Spirit, which I think is a little bit sad. I've talked about this a lot on my stream recently. I don't think a killer who is this simple and easy to get the hang of should be this strong. In my opinion, something like Singularity, with all the thought and, you know, time it takes to be good with him, he should be up there, and he's just simply not. All you have to do is walk at people with 200% movement speed, and you hit them. Her add-ons, insane recharge, duration add-ons, really, really strong stuff with, again, no downside, very similar to Blight's, except with the exception of the Yakuyoke amulet, which now does not let her recharge her power faster after they changed it. So it does give her duration and slow her down. But again, you could just run Mother-Daughter Ring with it, and who cares about that, right? She does have a couple maps that, if you're newer to her, could be hard. I know people have had trouble on, like, Larry's and stuff with the chained windows, stuff like that. But, yeah, once you put a little bit of time on her and have a headset, I mean, you know, you could get really solid with Spirit in, like, 10 games, I think. Another problem with her is the add-ons. I don't think her base kit is that oppressive, but she has so many freebie add-ons that have very little to no downsides that she just is insanely strong and very simple to use. I'm not the biggest fan of, but, you know, for now, either way, this is where I think she is on the tier list. For the number 1 in A tier, in my opinion, again, very similar to Blight and Spirit. Her base kit isn't the most oppressive thing in the entire game. She has a great chase power with the Corrupt Purge, but her add-ons are so disgusting. When you look at stuff like the Black Incense, the double apples are insane. She has so many insane add-ons that just take her above and beyond where any killer I feel like should be off of add-ons, that it's really hard for me to put her any lower than that. Now, if we were going based off with no add-ons at all, I'd probably put her a little bit lower, but some of them are just so stupid that I can't imagine that she's below anybody in the A tier. Very little map dependency, plays around stuff like Corrupt really well. I think Plaything Pentamento's insane on her, adding slowdown on the slowdown. Thanatophobia is something that I used to say was pretty good on Plague, but after playing with it a little bit, I realized that it's usually not the best play because they're just going to be staying injured, and they all have resilience, so Thanatophobia is doing very little for you. Yeah, even before the recent patches, she would have been even stronger than she is right now, and I'm still putting her at the top of A tier because Circle of Healing was so problematic. It was a game-breaking perk, which is still strong. People don't use it anymore because it's not broken, though. Medkits were nerfed pretty hard. So now, you know, with that stuff going away, I almost thought she would drop a little bit in my tier list, but she's still right there based solely off of add-ons and real lack of map dependency. There's some stuff, though, like Midwich, which can feel really awkward because if you have no stealth, you know, they know where you're coming at all times, and then you're just W keying for 2 full minutes to catch up to somebody, and by then your Corrupt Purge is gone. But other than that, really, really solid. She can slug hard. She can camp hard, trade any hook she wants to. No problem tunneling, especially if she has her Corrupt Purge up. Everybody's going down in the area, right? Really, really solid killer. Number 6, we are going to have Wesker here, who has an incredible base kit power, which just gives you so much. It gives you the opportunity for an insta-down. It's slowdown built into his kit because people have to be going and getting the sprays and healing and stuff like that. Incredible tunneler with how he can hit people directly off the hook with his power, and then they're 8% slower in like 5 seconds or so right after. It's really, really, really annoying if Wesker does decide to play that way because there's really just nothing you can do. He can play around a lot of tiles really well, especially with people with those techs. Some of those I see as tech, some of them I just see as straight up exploits, but either way, they're in the game, and, you know, it can make him really, really, really strong in chase if you're getting good with those. Also, he has a really solid range of add-ons from the Eerie Ouroboros Vial to even the Unicorn Medallion or Jewel Beetle. I like a lot to throw people into the edge of the map. If you're tossing people into the edge of the map on Wesker, they're not making it to any loop anywhere. You are killing them. They can't do anything. Really, really strong stuff. And synergizes really, really well with, I'm saying really, really a lot. Maybe I should put a little meme in here. He synergizes with the meta perks and stuff extremely well. Also, you know, anything, Pain Res, DMS, Pop, Eruption, whatever. He has the mobility. He's got the chase power. He can down people really quick. He's got built-in slowdown. It's a lot to deal with. All in his base kit, too. Next is the newest killer in Dead by Daylight, the Alien, who has fantastic mobility in his base kit to move around the map and cover the gens. No cooldown on it either. Very, very strong chase power, which a lot of people have complained about, saying it's overpowered. I really don't think so. I think it's a very solid chase power, and especially now that they nerfed the cooldown on misses, so it takes them a little bit longer. They can make it to other loops and stuff. I think the main thing people were really complaining about at the start was they didn't really know how to play around the flamethrowers and stuff like that, or how to play around them in chase, and they weren't really learning. The killer's still extremely good, though. Very, very strong. He's got a couple really solid add-ons. The emergency helmet lets you deal with multiple turrets. Obviously, the survivor's going to get a ton of distance when you do it, but you still can. He has a purple add-on called the self-destruct bolt, which is extremely good. You can play around Shack. You can play around so many loops when you're in runner mode. Being able to vault the windows that much quicker, it's insane. I played around Drop Shack Pallet pretty much all the time. I don't even break it on Alien. It's that disgusting. And he has a nice brown add-on to show you the turrets and stuff like that. Not that he really needs it, but that purple add-on by itself puts him in A tier. I think it's such an insane one. It's really hard to body block against Alien as well. So Swifts will have a hard time dealing with him if you do want to tunnel and stuff like that. You can shoot past them and hit the person in front of them, like by aiming over. It's really, really strong. I encourage you to try it out for yourself. Not to tunnel. I'm not saying tunnel, but, you know, hitting over people and stuff like that. You can do it. But anyway, we are going to go to the next killer, which is Oni. The only reason Oni is not at the top of A tier for me, with a power that is so insane, that at ending the game, like he could end the game in 60 seconds with a good use of your power here, just with like Monitor Infectious. You don't really need anything else. The only problem is you can go against a really solid team, playing very safe, and you get a map like the Meat Plant where they're pre-dropping 40 God pellets, and there's nothing you can really do about it besides just hope one of them messes up before you get your power. And until that happens, you are just an M1 killer, and gen speeds are pretty quick. So you are going to need something, a little something to help you out, you know, Corrupt or whatever to get that. But once you do, Oni is an absolute tank. He has also really great add-ons with Blood Fury Duration. His activation add-on for Demon Rush is very good. He's got movement speed stuff. The Splintered Hole is really solid to give you more blood orbs, so you pretty much never run out of your power once you get it. Across the board, great mobility in the power, insane chase potential. You can end games, like I said, in a minute flat, and he is a blast to play. So I definitely recommend you guys trying out Oni. He's the first killer I ever made, and he is phenomenal. It also makes you kind of have to sit there and learn how to play M1 killer well to be able to get your power. Because if you're not going to be able to do that, it's going to be a really rough time for you. But yeah, he'll be sitting right there at number 8 for me. Next up, number 9, we got our boy Pyramidhead. I recently did a pretty solid win streak on him. I think, as far as I know, it is the highest recorded win streak for Pyramidhead. Just a little flex, you know. I got to do it one time in the video. Super, super strong. You really don't need many perks on Pyramidhead to make him thrive. The build I ran is really good because if they're not getting tormented, you have a lot going for you. If they are getting tormented, you have a lot going for you. So Deadlock's going to block the gens and stuff here and there. If somebody gets tormented, you cage them immediately. You know where they're going to be. You run there, you tunnel them right off that fucking cage, and there's nothing they can do about it. Nobody can take a hit, nothing like that. They are going to die. Anytime somebody gets tormented, it is 2 hook states, no matter what. Very, very powerful. And it also allows you to kind of proxy an area if it's good, if the cage is there. This killer is really good at being bad. He is a mean killer, and survivors are not going to like playing against him if you're playing him and taking advantage of all the stuff in his kit. He ignores some of the strongest survivor perks in the entire game and does it and can hit over loops that 90% of the roster could only dream of, like ignoring walls and stuff like Nurse. It's a lot harder to use the Nurse's power, don't get me wrong. But the fact that he can do it and could potentially hit 4 people at the same time is enough to at least justify A tier. I'm putting him here because after doing the win streak, I can see the stuff he's really capable of and how little survivors can do about some of the stuff that you want to do to win. And I think he's extremely solid. He does only really have 2 add-ons I would recommend with the double range because the rest are pretty shit. But his base kit speaks for itself. He is extremely strong. Pinhead. I put him here because of the passive slowdown of the box in the background, and his chase power is very, very solid. You could play around a lot of loops and stuff like that, similar to Doctor or Clown could. It's a little bit trickier to use, don't get me wrong, but it is very, very good. Another great thing about Pinhead is he has some busted add-ons. Engineer's Fang is one of the stupidest add-ons in the entire game. There's nothing you could say to change my mind. Being able to just summon a chain on somebody and injure them from very far away or like over a pallet or whatever is nuts. He also has stuff like the Impaling Wire, Original Pain, very, very good add-ons. And that's from Eerie to Green mostly. You know, there's a couple that are just really, really good in the green category too. He did come. But on top of that, with the box's slowdown, you can find it pretty easily if you're using lethal, which is very, very strong. If you can get the box a couple times in a game, it's pretty much wraps, especially if you have any slowdown built in. It's just too much for survivors to deal with. They won't be able to get the gens done, no matter how much they try. There's sometimes, you know, you just don't want to commit to a chase. You know, if it's like Garden, they're pre-dropping God pallets, you might have to leave them and stuff like that. But either way, he is a very strong killer. And the fact that you could just run like 4 slowdowns on him is insane. The killer is super strong. Next up, we're going to put Horseman Dredge with the Maurice skin. What a beautiful bastard. Dredge is a killer I think could go lower in the tier list. We might move him down in a little bit. The main problem is his chase power is good, but MFT is so busted that it makes it look bad. They could just W key to loops hard when he starts channeling his remnant and stuff like that, trying to play around pallets or whatever it is. And it's really hard for him to do anything about that if they really know what they're doing or have a good map. The killer has fantastic mobility. Nightfall is insanely strong. If Nightfall was like perma, he would be probably like up here or something like that. But it's not. You know, you do have to build it up. You do have to have that like 60 seconds or the green add-on to extend that. It is insane for slugging. You play kind of similarly to Oni to really get value out of him, where you're kind of hitting running here and there while you're not in Nightfall, hooking people then. And then when you're in Nightfall, you're a slugging monster, right? You're trying to make them hurt. You're trying to come out of nowhere, make it impossible to deal with. They can't see what's going on. You're popping out. Everybody's on the floor. That's what you want with Dredge. And he's really good at that. Windows does hurt him a little bit with Nightfall, because even though a lot of survivors could just be able to find some stuff, it's really hard to see in Nightfall. But Windows will bail out survivors quite a bit. So that is another thing too. Just the whole meta right now with made for this Windows resilience isn't fantastic for Dredge. I still think the killer's awesome. His chase power is really solid, but sometimes it's just hard to get great value out of. Next up in the A tier, we got our boy, in my opinion, the Demogorgon, who is very similar to Dredge or Xenomorph in that he has great mobility, fantastic info on gens if you're placing portals near them, a really solid chase power, which can get you hits that no other killer could. Well, okay, not saying no other killer, but a lot of the other killers couldn't. Great lunge. Deals with pallets super easily with stuff like Barb's glasses. Very, very solid all-around killer. I'm on an active win streak with Demo, which, as far as I know, is also the record similar to Pyramidhead. I think we're at 53 right now, 57, something like that. And I've seen what he could do. The best user of Save the Best for Last in the game. People tell you not to use it. It's just because they don't want you only M1ing. That's why they're telling you that. If you're still using his chase power how it should be used and taking M1s where you can get it for free and stacking that, he can be getting insta-downs with an M1 with save and then a shred. It's crazy. So it's very, very, very good. Also has some pretty solid add-ons. He did get one that was extremely powerful, nerfed, but he also has stuff to be able to defend totems insanely well. Another eerie add-on. Then he's got the Barb's glasses and the Black Heart, which are two of his best add-ons, a yellow and a brown, which you could just run any game you play Demo pretty much. You'll like never run out. Really, really solid. And his kit, again, just speaks for itself, similar to the artists and stuff like that. I think he's really good. Finally, in A tier, this is the last one we have. I really do think Singularity, when you have his full potential like unlocked, is an A tier killer. It's just the amount of time and effort required to get there with this killer that is so much more than like pretty much any other killer in the entire game, that it's really hard for people to get to that point where that shows. He has a stupid amount of counterplay with the EMPs, body blocking. People can even body block your teleports at windows and stuff like that. You can use pods to play around that once you have a little bit of practice with him. But it is seriously painful to play this killer sometimes against people who really know what they're doing. And they don't even have to do well in chase, right? It takes you so long sometimes to, you know, set up your stuff in chase to be able to down people quickly. Put that in quotes. That they could just yam out gens with the insane gen speed stuff they're allowed to bring right now. Resilience, Deja Vu, Toolboxes, Prove, Hyperfocus, Stake. I mean, there's so many insane gen speed things in the game right now that can make it really, really hard for him to do well if you're not really on point with this killer. I do still believe he is an A tier killer, but man, it's rough. If you're just average with him, I could see that dropping pretty significantly. But people who I think really would put the time into Singularity and really, really like him, I think they could get great value out of him, and I'd put him here. Top of B tier, I have Huntress. And the reason she's lower than she used to be in my tier list is because she does have that map dependency. They've added a lot of maps recently with just tons of junk everywhere. And made for this is in the game, which means killers are 3% faster in loops, which is equivalent to about 5% for a killer. And it can make some of the loops an absolute nightmare for the Huntress to run. If you make one wrong call, you know, around a pallet, whether it's respecting it or running through it and they do drop it, they are going to get so much time in that chase. It is ridiculous. On top of that, survivors who know what they're doing all respect anytime they hear that ding when you have your hatchet pulled up. So getting value out of aura reading is getting harder and harder for her because people are getting generally better at the game. You can make an argument that they're getting worse with made for this and stuff like that, but still, it can make them look a whole lot better. She is not bad. She's great at tunneling. She's great at camping. She's great at slugging. She has some really solid add-ons, but again, with the meta right now, with made for this and stuff in the game, it can be really rough on Huntress, and sadly, she dropped a little bit for me. Next up in the B tier, we have our girl, the Hag. So recently, she had a bit of a rework where instead of burning the traps, survivors now wipe them away, which is interesting. There's base kit counterplay to Hag's traps, fine. And they can't do it from long range with a flashlight. They do have to get up close and wipe it. Now, it sounds like it's okay either way, but she doesn't get notified anymore when traps are destroyed. So you could be in chase with somebody about to down them, take them to the hook, and then you look down on the bottom left-hand side and you have 10 traps ready and you're like, where did all my traps go? Right? Like there's some stuff to be desired there. I do think the new Battle Hag build is very, very fun and strong. It makes her a good time to play without the traditional Hag playstyle. I don't know why you would just not play a different killer if you're doing that, but it is good. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, she was a lot worse, in my opinion, when the Boon Circle of Healing was at its peak. Now healing's a little bit slower. You can play more hit and run, play territorial and stuff like that. Make it tough on the survivors. But still, there's just, she could use a little bit of love. I think she used to be a lot stronger in my eyes, and she just kind of fell off. Next up in B tier, and I could argue he could be even higher, we have the Deathslinger, another killer I have an active win streak on right now. His chase power is no fucking joke. Now, like, he lacks mobility completely. He is, like, one of the slowest killers in the game as far as, he's 110 as far as traveling the map, but he more than makes up for that in his ability to end chases. It can be seconds. And with the build I run, it is disgusting. The very little counterplay survivors have if you can hit your shots. I'm dead serious. When you're on point and using save well, you're downing people faster than Nurse can. And that's no fucking joke. Like, that's insane. Again, like I said, he doesn't have map pressure at all. So what you need is a build for that, which is what I use. Some stuff like pain res to help slow down the gens and stuff like that. And just let you keep that pressure rolling, downing people in like 5-10 seconds flat, right? It is crazy. People say, you know, counterplay to Deathslinger is pre-dropping pallets. That's why I run Dissolution in my build. They can't. They can't play around a pallet. They can't vault the pallet. They just die no matter what. They are dead. Very, very, very underrated killer in my opinion. People still remember when he was like, he had that quick scope Deathslinger. You know what I'm talking about? And now he's got a little bit of a slower one. He is still an insane killer, and I encourage you, if you haven't put any time into getting solid with Slinger, you got to try him out. He is very good. I could argue him being even higher than he is right here, but there's some maps that are rough. You know, people running around corners and stuff a lot on Larry's makes the gun harder to use, stuff like that. Mother's Dwelling is a massive map, and if they're stealthing, very hard to chase and down people if you can't find them, right? So there are weaknesses, but in general, he is extremely powerful. Next up in B tier, we got our boy, the Legion. I also have the record win streak on Legion as far as I know. Dude, we got too many records, don't we? Jesus Christ, I got to get them all. Let's go for all of them. No, I'm not getting that 1,500 on Blight. That's way too much. But he has some very solid add-ons that can make him very powerful. A good team can make it a little bit harder to get 5th hit, but still with Never Sleep Pills, Mural Sketch, there's a lot of maps where it's just way too hard to get away from him in time. The 5th hits are the main thing that make Legion this good. Having people injured is no joke. People still look at Legion as a low tier killer. They're easily in the mid tier for me. The ability to camp a survivor in a 3-gen or anything like that, with the amount of slowdown you could stack with this killer, putting them in mend also on top of that, is no joke. You cannot go for unhooks when you're injured. I've had situations where I played against very good teams, got them all injured very easily. You don't heal against Legion, right? So what happens? Somebody's on their second hook. They're going to die. If I need somebody dead, they're dead. They try to come in and trade. You know, you get 2 downs for the price of 1. Beautiful. More slowdown for you, right? It's a lot of win-wins here. It can be a little bit tricky if you don't get a down a little bit early on, because that pressure is amazing when you have everybody mending and your slowdown perks, and they have to deal with unhooking, maybe healing their teammates, and trying to do gens. Like, it's a lot to deal with that most teams, even on comms, have a really tough time with. And the thing is also, with the Frenzy, as long as you're playing around your power well, they can't play pallets and windows, really, if you're going for 5th hits. Now, once you're not using that, if you're just playing around M1, they have significantly more counterplay to an M1 killer. But his chase power when you're going for those is seriously very, very strong. A lot of slowdown. He's one of the best killers at making survivors give up as well. So that helped with the win streak also, not going to lie. But yeah, Legion's really, really solid. I couldn't see putting them any lower than this. Maybe a little bit, but definitely not higher. Next up, we have Knight, who can do something similar to some of the other killers like Artist or Pinhead, where you can keep multiple survivors occupied at the same time, except he does it even easier. All he has to do is send a guard, and the guard can chase somebody else, pressure a gen, you know, kick 5% off of it if he wants, break pallets in a half a second, you know. There's a lot that is really hard for survivors to deal with, and if you have somebody cornered with Knight, they're taking a hit or going down. There's nothing they can do in chase against you. Really solid at holding a little gen setup with his guards patrolling and stuff like that. Being able to kick 5% off from range is really strong. Also, the Assassin is amazing in chase. He has some very solid add-ons. I like the double Assassin, Call to Arms, Map of the Realm, stuff like that is really good. Even the Eerie Banner is really, really solid, blocking windows that survivors vault and chase. Very good. My only problem with Knight is I feel like, in my opinion, he should be lower on the tier list, because when I play Knight, I really don't have to think much at all. You can, like, throw a guard at somebody and it almost plays chase for you, which I still do like his aesthetic and everything, and it is satisfying to get a guard down, but you don't really have to do anything for it, is my only problem. Either way, I do think he's really solid and not map dependent at all. So I'm probably going to throw him right about here. Next up, we got Bubba. Now, a lot of Bubba players won't let you know this, because all they'll do is down you after 5 gens and then face camp you with no ed. But the killer is really good. He is insane. Now, you do want to have bamboozle on him at almost all times, but this dude shreds pallets, has the threat of insta-downing multiple survivors. You can't take hits against the Bubba. You know, if he's trying to go after your teammate who's injured, you swoop in for a hit, you're taking a chainsaw to the neck. You know, there's nothing you can do. His add-ons aren't really crazy. His Eerie Flesh, which is pretty solid, and the double chili. Even the green engraving isn't the worst add-on, but that's not like what makes him really good. It's the fact that he has that constant threat of an insta-down on you in chase. With bamboozle, you're blocking windows, so all they can do is play pallets, and you evaporate pallets on Bubba. It's no joke. Again, I'm going back to windows. It does help survivors kind of avoid the dead zones you create early on, but, you know, you find that one weak link who's down to slam every pallet they see, and that map's going to be dead by the time they get a gen done. Everybody's dead at that point. They can't do anything against you, right? So, I think Bubba's very solid. Especially if you don't face camp with him. He is the best face camper in the game, though, so you've got to give him his credit there. He's the best at something. You can't say that for every killer on the roster. But, yeah, there's Bubba right there in the B tier. Next up is Nemi, who can get very similar hits to Alien, but he doesn't have the mobility. He does have zombies helping him pressure the map, which you can use perks like Discordance or Pain Res to show the zombies exactly where to go. They do get notified by loud noises like that, so they'll head to the action as long as you have perks like that going on. They are actually very useful now. They used to be terrible. But now the zombies actually can help you pressure the map and give you good info, stop them from doing gens. Some of them even just straight up face camp hooks, which is disgusting. His add-ons really are nothing special. If he had some better ones, he could definitely jump up a few spots, but it almost feels like a necessity to run Marvin's Blood on him sometimes, especially if you're trying to commit for a down early on, so you can get that tier 2. And other than that, you know, you can use the Eerie Umbrella badge, which can feel pretty good, getting the insta down there, some stealth a little bit. It's not the worst thing in the world, but yeah, he is great at shredding pallets like Bubba. If that's how you're playing him, getting hits over windows and stuff that normally an M1 killer wouldn't be able to make is very solid still. His chase power is good. There's a decent amount of counterplay. You know, they get a bunch of vaccines and stuff to get that off of them and heal. So there's like multiple chases where you have to take out basically 3 health states from a survivor to down them. But again, you can just be shredding pallets as well and stuff like that. So he's pretty solid, but I can't put him any higher than here. Next up, sadly, we got Skull Merchant. The 3-gen playstyle from Skull Merchant is probably the worst thing DBD's ever added into the game. It's horrible. It's the most boring thing you could play or play against. If anybody's saying they enjoy playing this, they're either lying or they really just enjoy boring people to a win for an hour. It's insane. The design is so bad. Chase Merchant is really fun. I like the combination of add-ons with other perks and stuff like Bamboozle and Brutal, Save, stuff like that. It can be really, really fun. But, man, the fact that that 3-gen thing's even possible is gross. I'm trying to not include the 3-gen part in this, but it's really hard not to because so many people have seen what it can do and how it can just drag out games. It is strong. She has good info. With those add-ons and stuff, like I said, she could get chases ended pretty quickly. I really have become a lot less of a fan of this killer after seeing how people can play her and will play her with that 3-gen setup. It's just horrible. I hope that's dealt with very soon, and I would like to move on to the next killer. Next up, we got the Clown, who also, similar to Pinhead, has one of the most disgusting add-ons of the game, which is Pinky Finger. The camp potential with this add-on is disgusting. And then you can run this in chase with Pinky Finger and the gin bottle. Throw 1 bottle to slow a survivor. Use the second bottle to directly hit them and insta-down them. There's really not much a survivor can do. It feels really cheap and not good to go down to. And it feels really cheap to use, I gotta be honest. I've never had the Pinky Finger going on and been like, wow, that guy got outplayed, you know. It's very good, but he also has other good add-ons that I used during our Clown win streak, which is also still active. We're at 52, I believe, on Clown, might be 53, which is the additional 4% hindered add-on, which is gross for playing around a lot of the pallets in the game, and the cheap gin bottle to give us 2 extra bottles. He's super solid in chase. Similar to Slinger, he can get a lot of crazy fast downs. And I do run the exact same build on the 2 because it's just impossible to W key either of them. You just can't hold W away or you're dead. Like, you're not going to make it to anything. So you trap them at a loop. They can't play around the pallet because you have dissolution, and they die. Very, very good chase powers. And the thing with Clowns, too, is it's so simple. You don't really have to think at all with him. You just chuck a bottle and run at a survivor. There's really no crazy strategies you have to do. It's really that simple. You hit them, you slow them, you hit them, and they die. Like, it's pretty crazy that he is here with how simple his kit is. I think he should almost be weaker than this. But, yeah, that's about where he'll sit for me. Next up is Wraith, who is just an all-around really solid killer. Really good at hit and running, getting free tags, getting people injured. Solid map mobility. Just add-ons across the board are very good, from like purple to yellow. Very, very good stuff. You know, you got the Bone Clapper in yellow, which is one of his best in my opinion. It's just really, really hard to tell exactly where he is and stuff like that. And then you got Shadow Dance, Windstorm, you know, the quick uncloak stuff. It's really, really good. And again, similar to Clown, not much effort that you have to put in to really get value out of him. You can take those freebie hits, leave, pressure a gen, get another one. Just keep getting freebie hits here and there. Deal with pallets really fast with Shadow Dance and stuff like that. And, you know, you can roll over some teams pretty easily. And it's not just new players. You could have a really tough time dealing with a Wraith who knows what they're doing, body blocking windows when you have no pallets left and stuff like that. You're just going down. You're not outplaying that. He's quick. Really, really good. And really solid stealth as well. So I'll probably leave it right here towards the bottom of B tier. For the last killer in the B tier, I have the Doctor, who, as some people in my stream right now have mentioned, has fallen a little bit because of MFT, like some of the other killers, such as Huntress. Channeling your power does slow you down, remember that. So when you're doing that, the servers are just getting more distance around a loop or to the next loop with MFT, just simply by holding W. You don't really have to think with this MFT at all. You just hold W, and you can make it a lot harder on him. He is still very good. He has some really strong slowdown builds, and he is one of the only killers in the game who has the most, that insane of a build variety, which is really, really strong on him. I actually can't think of another one off the top of my head that could use every perk so well. I mean, obviously Nurse, but she doesn't need perks at all, so that's kind of a given. The Doctor is extremely good still. Pretty solid add-ons. I've found out from watching some Doctor players and as well as from Fur in the stream how good Discipline and the Green Electrode are together. Very, very good. You can still play around a lot of stuff. It just takes you so much longer, and it can be so much more painful with the stuff in the game right now. But I still do think he's pretty solid, and that's why I wouldn't put him in the C tier or below that. Guys, we forgot a killer here, which is totally my bad for the B tier. I'm actually going to be putting the Onryo right about here, and I'm going to move my webcam here. I'm going to be putting the Onryo right under Legion and right above Knight. So she recently got a rework, which made it so anytime she teleports, it's spreading that condemned to everybody on the map. And if somebody's holding the tape and she hits them, they get 2 stacks of condemned. Now, I've played a few games of Onryo since, I think, like 5 to 10 since she got reworked. And every game, I've gotten 2 to 3 plus condemns. I'm not sure if she's that strong. I've felt that I've done a good job of finding people when they have the tapes and stuff like that. I run an info build that helps and stuff. Maybe there's something better they could do, but I could tell you survivors cannot take hits against Onryo. She just demanifests through them and hits the teammate who's condemned, which is a great thing. They added an extra chase power to her as well, so when she's demanifested, she cannot get stunned by pallets, and you could just instantly break it. She actually has a ton going for her on top of her mobility, built-in slowdown and everything like that. She does also get that added chase power I just talked about, and being able to just straight up kill somebody out of the game at 5 gens if they slip up is insane. So I would say, you know, a solid B tier killer. I wouldn't really put her higher because I think strong teams could make it a lot harder than I've seen. So for now, this is a safe spot in my opinion. So top of C tier, we have the Trickster. One of the killers I dislike the most in the game. He can be insane at shredding people in an open area, and there's just nothing you can really do about it. My main problem with him is, in those situations, somebody with like 5 minutes in the game could down somebody with like 5,000 hours in the game because he just has an Uzi where it's like impossible to fuck up 44 knives. It just is. I've said this so many times. He also has an add-on to give him 8 more knives, so 52. If you're fucking up 52 knives in an open area against somebody, I don't know what to tell you. It's basically impossible. And all he has to do is just hold down left click. He's just an Uzi. You know what I mean? Really unfun to play against, in my opinion. But the chase power is pretty solid. He has 0 mobility at all. He is really good at face camping, especially if he has main event just about ready to go. You could shred a lot of health states pretty quick. And some decent add-ons. He's got the Eerie Photo Card, which is good. The Fizz Pop Soda, I think is what it's called. The shoes are really good. It's just overall really solid stuff in the add-ons. But again, he's just slow. He doesn't have those like cross map hatching potentials of Huntress to just knock out a Hell State with one hit and stuff like that. But he's not bad. It's just he has some shit maps. A good team is just going to be holding left click on gens while you're downing people, and he's not going to be able to cover the gens. He's just not. So this is where he's got to sit for me in the C tier. But he can be pretty fun to play. Next up after Trickster, we have the twins. And the last time I did a tier list video, some of you guys were not happy about this placement with the twins. It's just, there's so much counterplay for Victor if a team knows what they're doing and doubling up and stuff like that. So many anti-slug perks, stuff to make it harder. Even plot twist now. There's a very strong anti-slug perk where if they're about to hit Victor, you just plot twist. You can pick yourself up fully healthy if they don't go for you right away. It's hard to play twins as well. And it's the only killer in the game punished so heavily for hitting their power as well as missing their power. You miss something on Alien, they might be able to make it to another loop and you have your power ready to go instantly to get that follow-up right after. You miss Victor on the twins, and you feel like your balls just got cut off and fed to you. It's not fun. You hit your power on Victor, the same thing. You got about 10 seconds before you can move again. Then you have to walk all the way over to where the person got downed. Then you have to pick him up, walk him all the way over to the hook. If you're going to be playing around hook perks like barbecue or pain res and stuff like that, if you're just hard slugging, you can ignore that. But again, there's a lot of counterplay to the slugging, like I mentioned. It's just so much about twins that feels so bad. And yes, if people don't really know what they're doing, they're staying injured or whatever, getting rid of Victor right away, you can steamroll people on twins and solos. But if people really know what they're doing and understand the counterplay of twins, there's even the strat to get hit, fully hold W across the map and hop in a locker. Charlotte cannot make it to you before you break out of the locker with Victor on it. It's that stupid. Like, you don't have to think. They can be okay to play. They have pretty ass add-ons for the most part. You almost need Toy Sword to even play the character at all. I really am not a fan of twins. I guess respect to the twins mains, but you gotta be a masochist to just main this killer. You have to be. It's terrible. Next up, we got Ghostface, who is just a pure M1 killer. You can do those little crouch mind games sometimes in a chase that sometimes somehow work, but realistically, he's just a straight up M1 with some decent add-ons. Against the Swift on comms, really sweating to win, you realistically have no power at all. The stealth doesn't matter because they'll call you out anywhere you go. You're not going to get the stalk because they know where you are and they can just reveal you. Somebody following behind or whatever. Like, really, really hard to do anything at that point with the killer at all, with people slamming pallets and slamming gens at the same time. He can be pretty fun, but realistically, there's just not much going for him outside of the stealth. If we're talking about like a really, really, really cracked squad, I would almost put him as the worst killer in the entire game. But other than that, you know, he has some maps that are still pretty good for him, even against those strong teams. You know, something like Larry's, Midwich, even RPD is not bad. But, man, Ghostface can get really bullied no matter your skill level if the survivors know what they're doing. Next up in the C tier, we have Myers, who has, I believe, a 16-meter tear radius in tier 2 when he's just a normal 115 killer with a slightly faster vault. And that's really, really solid, actually. He has some of the most crazy add-ons, ranging from Scratch Mirror, where he just stays a 105 killer with perma stealth and wall hacks all around, to Infinite Tombstone, where he just straight up kills anybody he sees, no matter how many times they've been hooked or anything like that. It's a crazy range of strengths on his add-ons here. And, you know, depending on maps and stuff, they can be really, really, really good. Problem, again, is a strong team can make it hard to get that stock, make it hard to get downs, because you are an M1 at the end of the day. But, you know, with the right builds and combinations of add-ons and stuff, you can make it hard for them to play around your stock and stuff like that. I could argue that he could be lower, but because Purple Tombstone is in the game, I think he has to stay in C tier for me. The add-on is just too ridiculous. It really is. So this is where we're going to put him. Not too much to say about Mikey. You know, he's an M1 that vaults a little bit quicker and insta-downs. That's about it. Myers, we got Hillbilly, who is getting violated by these new maps where they just keep putting the most random shit everywhere. Just random bushes with fucking square hitboxes that make no sense. That Borgo map is disgusting. Mobility's not bad, but again, when we're talking about map dependency, you're not getting any value out of that on Larry's, you know, RPD. There's nothing he could do. It feels horrible to run. You know, you can run low pro, which isn't the worst add-on, but still, it's fucking rough, man. They did remove overheat. Well, they didn't remove overheat. They pretty much removed overheat on Billy. I can't remember the last time I came close to overheating when I'm just spamming chainsaw, honestly. So, I mean, it's nice, but still, MFT, people staying injured around these huge hitboxed objects is horrible. It's terrible. Still fun killer, but man, he fell pretty far from where he used to be. For the first killer in D tier, we got Trapper, who the only reason I'm putting him at the top of D tier is because unlike the other two, he plays around altruism better than pretty much anybody in the game. Like getting a basement hook with Trapper and trap it around it, everybody's dying. You just set those traps back up. If they pop them, they're not getting out of the shack. It's pretty funny. He has some okay add-ons, you know, Eerie Stone, which is what you'll see a lot. I see so many trappers just run the double Eerie combo, you know, pretty much nothing else. Maybe the Trapper bag here and there. You know, you could just have somebody going around popping the traps while people are cooking out gens, and then he's just an M1 killer with nothing going for him, and hopefully getting a basement hook. That's about it. If he does get the basement, it is really strong. That person is dead. If anybody's altruistic, they're also dead. Sadly, it could be really hard for him to get it down, especially people paying attention to where you could have possibly put your traps and avoiding those areas, people going around popping them. There's a lot of counterplay for Trapper as well, so unfortunately he's got to be this low. And then we got the Fredster, who has worse mobility than Onryo, arguably a worse chase power than Onryo, no built-in slowdown like the Onryo has, no ability to outright kill a survivor like the Onryo has, and yet he kind of has a little bit of all the elements that she does, just way worse. If all survivors started in the Nightmare, I guess I could make an argument that he'd be higher. But the fact that you don't even have a chase power at all until you hit somebody or until that timer hits the dream world is fucking nuts. And dream pallets are almost useless with people having windows all the time. They know exactly what pallets are real and fake. And it's just a tough time for Freddy. He really has some dog shit add-ons. I'm sorry for the language, but they're awful. He could definitely use some love. I don't know if they will ever end up touching him, but he is not good. Not good. Yeah, the final killer you could see right here is Pig. The reason I got her at the bottom is, you know, on a tough map, or even a decent map, with a team that's playing together and really sweating to win, you're pretty much never going to get a trap on somebody until all 5 gens are done. They could take hits, just slam a bunch of strong pallets, which all these maps have now, while other people are slamming gens in the background. And good luck using your ambush to down somebody ever. You start pulling that shit up, they can W key to the next pallet, which is probably 10 feet away. You can't catch up anyway. It's a rough time for Piggy, but I still believe she needs some nerfs still, because I fucking hate. No, I was kidding, but I don't know. I would have to say Pig is at the bottom spot right now for me, and if they buffed her ambush to make it really usable in chase, maybe that could change. It probably would, but it's, you know, if you get one ambush hit in a game with Pig that was actually useful, instead of just saving a save the best for last stack, I'd be amazed. So that's about it for the tier list.